The Ferrero Group was founded in 1946 in Italy and is the second largest chocolate manufacturer in the world. Our entremet today is inspired by the flavors from the Ferrero Group, comprising of hazelnuts, chocolate, and delicious crunchy textures. Some of the most famous chocolate bars or chocolates from the Ferrero Group include, of course, the Ferrero Rocher, Kinder Bueno, and who could not forget Nutella. This Ferrero entremet comprises of many delicious textures, including crunchy wafer foulatine base, sponge cake, creamy layers of white chocolate mousseline cream, hazelnut praline ganache, covered in a crunchy milk chocolate glaze. So let's get into making this decadent entremet now. Prepared here our hazelnut sponge cake. So just cut down the sides just to release it. And we're going to keep that baking paper on just so it's easy to transport. Now we're going to take our form here and just pop that over the top so we know where to cut, and just start trimming around the edge. So I've just taken our crunchy layer out of the fridge, and I can see that it's started crystallizing because it's starting to firm up. So we're just going to take that top layer off, and with our form over the top, and we're just going to press into it. Now that we've tidied up the edges, I'm just going to transfer it to our tray here. And we're going to add our first layer of sponge. And just make sure that that first layer is down nice and evenly. You can also use one of these bench scrapers to get into the corners just to even out the sponge. Now we're going to add some Frangelico syrup. We are now going to put on our mousseline cream, buttercream. I'm going to weigh out 200 grams. And just even that out. Once you've evened out your buttercream as best you can, we're going to put on our second layer of hazelnut sponge cake. So just with using the baking paper, so it's much easier, we're going to transfer over the top. So just position it and then peel away your backing paper. And you can use your bench scraper again just to get into those corners and to press down to ensure you've got a nice even layer. And next we're going to use some of our sponge syrup again. And this is a Frangelico sponge syrup to stay in line with our hazelnut flavors. And now we're going to add our praline ganache, 160 grams, and even it out. Now that we've got our ganache layer, we can go in with our final sheet of hazelnut sponge. And Frangelico syrup. and our remaining white chocolate mousseline cream. And you want to even it out as best you can. Reserve your remaining praline ganache. We can use this for some decoration later. So now that we've assembled our entremet, we can pop this into the freezer now for several hours, or preferably overnight, before we cut and glaze. So our Ferrero cake has been in the freezer overnight and it's firmed up nicely. So we now need to remove this frame. And I always really like to use these heat guns. I do have my frame on a silicone mat, so it's safe for me to fire away straight on there. And this is going to help release that cake nice and easily. If you need a little helping hand, you can pop a bowl underneath to help release it. Okay, now I'm going to transfer it onto some baking paper just so we can cut directly on there. So the first thing that I want to do is trim either side of these long ends here. I have a jug filled with some boiling water and I've got my knife in here, so it'll be much easier to cut through. Now we want to cut our entremet in half through the center so we end up with two long pieces. Now I'm going to move one of these pieces onto another sheet of baking paper just so it's going to be easier to cut. And I first want to start with just trimming this edge here. Now we're going to make incremental cuts. And then carry on with your next one. Once you've cut all of your cakes, transfer them back to the freezer for at least 30 minutes, just so everything can firm up. So when they're ready to glaze, the cream is not going to melt. So I'm going to put these into the freezer now. So I've pulled my cut Ferrero cakes back out of the freezer, and now we are going to glaze them. So I have prepared my crunchy vegan milk chocolate glaze, and we're just going to put down some cling wrap here. And I have some pastry cards. Now you can get these in lots of different sizes. These ones happen to be the right size for the size that we cut today. So you want to lay these out, and so your cakes will stick. I have in my piping bag here a little bit of glucose syrup, and we're just going to add a very small dot on each one just so they stick down. Now I've just got my thermometer here just to make sure that our glaze is at the correct temperature. We're working with it at around 25 degrees Celsius. Just make sure you give it a good stir. And you want to grab yourself 2 toothpicks. Pop these inside your cake. Make sure you've got a good grip. And we're going to dip. all our Ferrero cakes are glazed, we can start decorating it. So I do have some leftover praline ganache, and I've whipped this up into a ganache monte. So I'm going to go ahead and decorate these, but at home you can decorate them however you like. And I also have some gold leaf, just to make it that extra bit fancy. And there you have it, guys, a Ferrero entremet travel cake.